Before coming here, I knew I was taking over a good team. Didn't expect them to be so fantastic. In an interview with reporters, Kerr expressed his thoughts. Looking at the team's members, he realized it was time for the Golden State Warriors to rise. Because the players on this team, whether in discipline or other characteristics, have all the important factors needed for a championship. It's time to aim for the championship. In the 2014-15 season, the Golden State Warriors made a bold decision. That was to fire their head coach Mark Jackson, and then hired a coach who had never coached before. He was Steve Kerr. During his time as a player, he won 5 championship rings with the team, and then became Popovich's chief disciple. This move by the team was a bit risky, but as it turned out, they bet right. Upon seeing the performance of these players, the first thing Kerr did was to have a long talk with Iguodala. He even convinced the latter to play as a substitute. After the season started, the chemistry of the Golden State Warriors was extremely good. They kept winning. In the first half of the season, they achieved an impressive record of 21 wins and 2 losses. Leading them to victory was none other than the omnipotent Stephen Curry. His level and rhythm of play were completely out of step with other players. Few players in the league could limit him on the defensive end. In addition to Curry, Klay Thompson also had a breakout performance. His three-point shooting percentage was not lower than Curry's. He even had a historic performance of 37 points in a single quarter. So, the Golden State Warriors held their heads high, won 67 victories in the regular season. But before the playoffs started, many experts questioned them. Just relying on jump shots to play in the playoffs, wasn't that a pie in the sky? But head coach Kerr didn't think so. Their game intensity is bound to cause a stir in the league, including in the confrontational playoffs. Their opponent in the first round was the Pelicans. Their star player was Anthony Davis. This team's lineup was far from inferior, so winning was not an easy task. But after the game started, everything was different. The Golden State Warriors' offense was so fierce that the Pelicans had no time to respond. They couldn't even keep up with the fast break. So after 4 games, the Golden State Warriors stood out. They were the first to beat the competition and advance to the semifinals. And on the stage of the semifinals, a stronger team was waiting for them. You can't win games by shooting alone. I think they can prepare their tickets home. After a 1 o'clock loss to the Grizzlies fans mercilessly mocked the Golden State Warriors, saying that the Warriors were just a jump shot team, completely unable to contend with their Randolph. But is that really the case? In the second round of the playoffs in 2015, the Golden State Warriors encountered the renowned tough Grizzlies. In their lineup, the combination of Randolph and Marc Gasol made all the teams in the league tremble. Before the game, there were doubts. Wouldn't this kind of Warriors be smashed by the Grizzlies? After the series began, the plot seemed to go as the fans predicted. They couldn't adapt to this intensity. After 3 games, the Warriors were also 1-2 behind the Grizzlies. Faced with all the doubts, Curry stood up. Not only did he make a breakthrough in offense, but he also activated his teammates. Under high-pressure defense from the Grizzlies, the Warriors still played a smooth fast break. Back at home, they were unstoppable. In the end, they didn't let the Grizzlies take another victory, and finished the semifinal duel 4-2. Before the start of the Western Conference Finals, Curry had another important task. That is to receive the regular season MVP trophy. That season, he led the Warriors to 67 wins, which earned him the season's MVP. At the MVP award ceremony, he thanked his father. Without his father's careful nurturing, there wouldn't be him today. Back on the court, after just receiving the MVP trophy, Curry was like after taking a potion. No matter how the Rockets resisted, they couldn't escape from his magic claws. Even though they had Harden, Curry's performance was superior. At that time, in the Rockets lineup, besides Harden, there was also the former league's top center, Dwight Howard. No matter how they played, they seemed to be no match for the Warriors. In the end, the series ended. The Warriors finished the battle 4-2, making it to the finals for the first time in 47 years. While they were delighted, the entire Warrior team was extremely nervous, because their opponent was the most formidable player in the league at the time, LeBron James. The Cavaliers had just swept the 60-win Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Their momentum seemed even fiercer. Whether they could defeat them in the finals became something the entire Warriors team had to consider. The showdown was about to begin, facing the league's finest athlete. How should Curry and the Warriors respond? We won't change any strategy next. Even though we're behind in the 1-2 deficit situation of the finals, Coach Kerr accepted the interview with a smile. Facing this sharp question, he unexpectedly said this to the reporter. Time back to the 2015 finals. Before the game started, everyone thought the Cavaliers might win. After all, they had the best athlete of the whole league, plus the all-star point guard, Kyrie Irving. The Cavaliers seemed to be close to their first championship in team history. But the Golden State Warriors didn't seem to plan to hand over the championship trophy. In the first game, both teams played tremendously competitive. And in the regular time, the Cavaliers, led by James, kept the upper hand. In the end, forced by Curry's superb performance, the game was barely dragged into overtime. But at this time, the first turning point of the entire series appeared. Irving collided with Klay Thompson while dribbling. The former was limped and helped to the locker room, and soon announced the end of the season. Looking at the situation on the court again, without Irving, the Cavaliers deflated instantly. The Warriors seized the opportunity and knocked down the first victory in one fell swoop during the overtime. Only 3 victories away from the championship. But the Cavaliers were not so easy to defeat. Under the absence of Irving and Love, they made a strong comeback in the second and third games, displaying an offensive performance the Warriors could not contend with. The overall score instantly became 1-2. Both Kerr and the Warriors team understood. If they lost the 4th game, they were likely to get eliminated. So before the start of the 4th game, when the media asked Kerr what adjustments he would make, he simply smiled and said, "We wouldn't make any adjustments," and then stood up and left his seat. Despite his words, when the 4th game started, everyone still saw the changes in the Warriors team. Kerr put Iguodala into the starting lineup and lowered the overall height of the starters. On the defensive end, he had Iguodala mark James throughout, and on the offensive end he attempted to completely shatter the Cavaliers with a fast break. Such an unconventional lineup. Only Kerr might dare to use. After the game started, James was the first to notice the change in the Warriors, so he kept feeding the ball to the inside. The Warriors lineup was heavily targeted at the start. Were they able to break through?